Heretic, which is out in cinemas everywhere. I had told Zach last week that I had a very interesting screening because they had a smell-o-vision. Right when this man pops out with that candle that's supposed to be a blueberry scent, we actually got hit with some blueberry pie. It was fine. It was decent. It wasn't that bad. But it made it pretty immersive. It wasn't until the Mormons followed me home, Zach, that I realized they were taking it a little too far. The newest movie, Heretic, is A24's addition to their horror canon that's supposed to be this intellectual horror. If we're going back to that horror episode that we did, everyone's always talked about elevated. Well, everyone's on the same level at this point, trying to make something out of their horror movie that's more than jump scares, then we're all on the same plane. This is a movie where both directors said, and I heard this like literally just a couple days ago, where they wanted to replace the jump scares, Zach, with intellectual punchlines. Did they get you?
Ooh.
In the discussion, did you see the lines coming?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I don't know. I wouldn't say that this movie is like exactly a religious masterclass or like a seminar-worthy discussion, but I think, especially for a mainstream released horror movie, there's a lot of like very interesting dialogue and debates on, different religions and commonalities and stuff like that. It's stuff that, like, if you have a passing interest in it, you've probably like seen a YouTube video or like been passed an article from somebody on it.
Had an uncle tell you.
Yeah, there's interesting stuff in the film for sure, but I wouldn't say any of it like changed my understanding of religion, and I wouldn't exactly say that I'm like a religious scholar. I think you have a deeper education in religion than I do. How did you interpret the religious dialogues in Heretic?
First and foremost, my main thing is to follow the characters. I think people forget that you need to be fully invested in the characters and the world that's happening before you have these conversations that feel like they're outside of the movie and for the audience, right?
Right.
Because this man's got like a PowerPoint presentation. He names you a song that's like Creep. He's got that thing on the disc jockey playing. This man's got Monopoly boards. He's got all of these different things to explain things to you.
Yeah, and it's clever.
It's intriguing, right?
It's a fun way of putting these ideas together.
For sure. Right off the bat, I do think it's an enjoyable movie. I think it's a fun thriller. I think the dialogue, while it doesn't hit all the marks that it wants to, I see what they were going for, and I think this is up there for what they were going for A Quiet Place, that it had a lot more visceralness in terms of not something they directed but wrote, in terms of its scares. Here it's like, you're trapped in there. Are you going to be able to get out? And I thought the actresses did a good enough job with that, and a lot of their turmoil and what they're bringing into it, because they're both supposed to be these missionaries who are sent to this random house, right, Zach, in order to be able to discuss with this guy who's requested the information. So he's kind of like asked for them to be there. And I think it's the setup that is both interesting, but there's so many holes in there that it makes you wonder, wait, how would they not have already been prepared for this and that? And theologically speaking, he doesn't like them being liars, but what's the whole setup starting with the candle and everything else? That, I don't know, I felt a little bit of a push and pull from it to fully enjoy it, because the same holes that this man is trying to pick in their religion, I started kind of seeing it in the script sometimes.
Right. Like, I don't know if there is sort of like an imbalance between the depth of religious knowledge and also vindication that these characters feel and display. And I guess the way that the film is sort of written for more of like a casual audience to be able to go along with and interpret, right? Like, yeah, but like, I do think that it ultimately leaves things feeling a little bit surface level. Like I kept sort of waiting for the film to go deeper, and not just like literally deeper into the house, but like just to mine a little bit deeper and push some taboos or something like that. It just sort of it for a movie called Heretic, I found it pretty interesting that, to me, it's not even as bold of a take on Catholicism as Conclave is, like it's just I think when so much of modern horror is like unafraid to go to these pretty depraved places, and you're you're marketing the film on this idea that it is this sort of like religious freakout movie in a way. I just kind of expected. I think I wanted it to get bigger. I wanted it to do a little bit more. It felt. I don't know if it was that I wanted it either to go more intellectual or to be a little bit more like they're in Saw, but with religion. But I kind of felt like it was trying to have it both ways, and it made for a pretty entertaining film. Like I feel like I'm being pretty critical of something that I enjoyed and engaged with. I just also didn't take away much from it either.
Right? Like, you don't want to see a sequel in this religious Saw universe after this.
Not particularly,
because even when you're kind of like watching it, because it is kind of split into two halves, them entering and having these philosophical, intellectual, religious questions and all these metaphors that he's bringing up towards them. And then the second half would be what you kind of see in the trailer of like, which door are they going to choose? What is going to be this maze that they get out of, perhaps? And to me, I just kept seeing the puzzle piece that was the script that they tried to put together. A character says something to you early on in the movie about what she thinks about the afterlife, and you just know it's going to happen in the second half, no matter what. And to me, it's like, that to me is so apparent in a puzzle piece script that it does not matter what this character, an atomic bomb will go off, that character will have that moment in the second half. And boy, do they. To what effect? I don't know, to me, because it gets very convoluted towards the end of trying to make you as a viewer doubt something, of you trying to figure out, hey, is this man kind of creating his own little game in where you can maybe see it as something like Saw, where he's trying to get something out of them? Or is he trying to create his own religion, as it starts posing all these questions of what is the difference with all these iterations, right? Like you had mentioned Catholicism right now with Conclave. I don't know how much the Mormons see themselves as that, if not another branch, just because they came over here. And I thought that was, while it's a conversation I've heard many times, you've got this denomination split from this denomination, split from this denomination. He brings up a really good point that they only do those things just so that they can control you, right? Someone will do a different version of the Intercut podcast with something else just because they know, okay, this is the only thing the boys are missing. Let me do a variation of that and I can pick up some subs. The whole layout for that, even when he's describing games to music and all that stuff, bro, I wanted an hour of that.
Yeah.
We get his presentation of it, and then that's it. So then he gets into this realm where you're asking me, how much do I know this? Man, I know the other conversation he forgot to have. He starts kind of showcasing to you that the figure of Jesus, which most religions over here in the Western world really follow, in the Eastern world, like from Osiris, Horus, all of these different Vishnu, they all have iterations of the Jesus story and them being resurrected and the such. But the next thing would be
many are theorized to have been born on December 25th, stuff
25th.
like that. Yeah.
But also no, like there's actually, that's also not the case either. So it felt like he just found that one bit. I thought I was going to get like a, what is it, Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas. This is why you shouldn't listen to the Bible telling you not to cut trees. He didn't mean that. And it felt a little weird. I think the approach that we have to covering religion in movies gets split in two ways. There's a horror director who I feel every time they cover religion, they really just don't like Christianity. So they'll be like, religion's so bad. And then they got like a Muslim main character. And it's like, well, like all religion should go there. Clearly you had an issue with like a Christian youth thing. Here, and I think Amanda was the one who said this, and I kind of agree with her. You can tell they have a lot more respect for religion, that having a name like Heretic in a movie where you never really get like that blasphemous.
Right.
I don't know. I think you feel it. And you feel it from the two girls, which I found out they brought a lot of their upbringing because they were supposedly both Mormon, raised in the church as well before becoming actors.
Yeah. And there also is something like a little bit, I don't know if cowardly is the right word, but like not brave in featuring Mormons specifically, I think, too.
Why?
A subgroup that has already been the subject of a massively successful Broadway musical that pokes fun at the religion. Like, I feel like
mentioned in the movie also, right?
Yeah, mentioned in the movie also, right? Like, I feel like if you're really, exactly, right? Like, it's a little bit punching down, and I think what could make this movie feel a little more like heretical, blasphemous, whatever you want to say, is kind of poking at some bigger targets, or like pull at that Jesus thread a little bit more, because there's like there's more. If you want to get like conspiracy theory, connect the dots with it, like there's stuff that you can put in.
Yeah,
and I don't know. Are we approaching this a little bit too intellectually? Because we both
because
have
that's what's presented to us.
right. I guess
I wouldn't care. I'd look the other way. But
Yeah.
y'all were telling me it was this, and the second half becomes some goofy mousetrap thing that made no sense.
Yeah. I feel
Because
it
then,
does.
like you're saying, not only are you punching down, but you're saying he specifically scopes out Mormons because he thinks they're the easiest ones to play around with. Like the second half, because we're not going to get into spoilers here, is so goofy what he's created in this house that I found it to be the dumbest. Like, there's a possibility for that to work on what he's created with these women. But I think it makes the women look really dumb. There were several points in the movie where he's arguing with Sophie Thatcher in particular. And she has like one response where she goes, and you think it's this, but you think it's that. And I'm like, this girl should have defended herself way more. They talked about not being able to take down, what's his name? Man, nah, I've seen Sophie survive in the woods. I think she could have taken him. What's her name gets the legs? I don't know. He was still a little bit of an older man.
She isn't her character from Yellow Jackets in this exactly, but I still hear you. There's two of them. There's one of him, and Hugh Grant isn't exactly a spry young guy anymore. Although
That's what I'm saying.
Although, like, he still can make women swoon, as proven by my Twitter feed. I think you talk about some of those, like, moments where you question the characters and specifically the ways in which they almost feel, like, artificially trapped. And I think there is this kind of, like, thing about the movie that doesn't always work for me where, it's so reliant on them delivering the exact right piece of dialogue in a way that doesn't.
I'm saying.
Yeah, that just doesn't feel organic. But I think it mostly works in like a following the logic way, largely off of those performances, off of Sophie Thatcher, Chloe East, and particularly Hugh Grant who is just like so much fun to watch in this movie.
He said there was a lot of deleted scenes. He goes, nah, I said a lot of funny stuff, and that wasn't in there. And I think that may be where you and I are getting that push and pull of, like, are we supposed to be looking at this intellectually?
Right.
I think he was making a comedy. I think he was pressing buttons, but for the most part, I have heard that you can recut this entire movie to be funny. Mm-hmm. And then the girls are in a thriller.
Yeah, and there's that a kind of imbalance there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you feel it definitely throughout the movie, specifically because there is a grand plan at play. And at certain points, this grand plan is literally manufactured in the way the Joker in The Dark Knight was just having bombs go off. And he got like really lucky that people were in the right place at the right time. You were talking about reciting certain lines to get the movie to go forward. Turns out there is like a whole subplot where someone does need to repeat a monologue written for them, and they may or may not go off script. And it's like, oh, okay, bro. I don't know. There's too many pieces that needed to fall into place, which again is this kind of interplay of like a modern religion. But for the most part, like I just wanted it to hit a little bit better. I'm looking forward to rewatching it, especially when I can pause on certain things because, like I mentioned, there's a lot of production design, a lot of books on the walls and such. Because he's supposed to be beyond Christianity, this man is supposed to be a scholar of so many different things. He's been doing this for a while. And I wanted to see more of that built up. I don't see a sequel in the future, but I don't know. These boys have been able to turn some pretty big franchises into ongoing series, which means they were able to get the money for this one. So I don't know. There is a chance that they do a prequel, they do something else in order to.
I was about to say, like, there's more room for a prequel than there's a sequel. Like,
because the prequel would also answer a lot of the buildup for how he got here, which is what I think we're missing. This is one of those movies where they had all the discussions and they forgot that all of that conversation is the interesting part, and they just gave you the results of the conversation. Isn't it crazy that people come and then they'll just spew what he says in Heretic, like, your religion just comes from here. Well, I want to see all the other little things that you guys found out. Everything else besides the Monopoly board and such. I think that would have been more fascinating. But
definitely,
nonetheless, I personally, like, with all the negative stuff that I've hit it, I am between a 3 and a 3.5 because of his performance. I'd be more confident with the 3.5 if the second half was stronger. But I really did not care for the second half. I thought that was the worst part.
I'm kind of with you. It does sort of lose me once you get like another layer into the house. Robert in the live stream saying that he also thought the ending was a bit weak. Yeah, I don't know. I'm comfortable going 3 stars on this on the Intercut account if you are.
Yeah, we'll stick with that. On a rewatch, I might give it the extra half, but 3 stars for right now should be good. What'd you get out of the movie at the end of it too? Like, what was the lesson?
That like maybe we don't know anything. Like what's the? I don't know, man. I didn't
I
work
wouldn't
for
consider
me.
this a spoiler,
Yeah.
but there was one thing in particular where he was kind of saying like, there are people who will follow you like sheep, and he's just kind of like proving the point. It's like when people like they'll put a virus or something on a company so that they could be hired for IT. They're like, see, your firewall was vulnerable. I just showed it to you. Hire me. I feel like that's the scumbag he's become, this wolf in sheep's clothing, who's like, see, you guys were willing to fall for anything, so I just started creating a lot of propaganda for you guys to fall for. And I don't know. They wouldn't fall for it if you weren't putting it out there. And I don't know. I think those are some of the dumbest villains, in my opinion. It's just someone who wants to be smarter than the other person while creating the exact same, I don't know, area of control. But he was funny for what he was supposed to be. Maybe he's more good looking than he is intellectually there. But seems like he got away with it for a while. If you've seen it, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Let me know your theories, what takes you would have on it, what things you may think are worth looking out for on a rewatch. I know they were playing it at the Music Box. The boys have been doing their run because they're co-writers, co-directed the thing. Yeah, they were there for the Q&A. I think they seem like chill dudes. Yeah. I know 65 was a movie that they were able to make where they did not want anyone to know they were dinosaurs. They kind of got screwed over there since there's a
I do feel
one.
like I admire the attempt here in Heretic, even if not everything really works for me. Like it's a cool idea. At the very least.
I like the lenses that they use, especially.
Yeah, they seem like they can make the jump to director.
Bro, let me know. Did they really lose to this damn Christmas movie? Because I saw this headline pop out.
Yeah, dude. Listen, the polls, the pollsters, they you can't always trust them. They don't always know. They predict one thing and the people go the other way. It happens all the time. You know, they discounted the power of the red states.
Nope. Recount, Zach. Recount. Stop it. It started all over. First of all, Venom. Like how? How is Venom
still number one in the box office this weekend?
Doing,
but yeah,
bro?
The best Christmas pageant just narrowly looks like it beat out Heretic for that number 2 slot.
So people
best
can
Christmas
see the poster.
pageant?
Yeah, some people may not know it. I know this played at Tribeca, bro. I remember when you had the account on, and I was like, "What is this doing at Tribeca?"
It has a better cast than I expected. I mean, I like Judy Greer and like Barinholtz, but yeah.
It's not a bad trailer either. It's just like, damn, this movie came out of nowhere.
If it wasn't for going to see movies at AMC, I don't think I'd even know about this film. Like, its online presence seems like nil, but they I guess, put trailers in the right places. Yeah, I feel like Art didn't see Best Christmas Pageant ever.
I did not see this one either, dude. I thought this was going to go straight to VOD since you and I always discuss the Tribeca stuff and how,
right.
I mean, technically, that's usually a VOD premiere state type thing. But,
right.
Hey, good for them. I mean, that's narrow, bro. That's a very narrow lead.
Yeah, I mean, that might even be like a rounding error to win at the box office by less than 100,000. I mean,
yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, might have to catch up with it, I guess, then.